Hi guys, this is Priyanka. I'm recording a tutorial for this abstract smudge signature that you see for zombians.com. Okay, so I'm going to start off opening Photoshop and I'm going to make a new document, Control N, with 400 by 150 size right here. So once I do that, let me open the one that I've already created. I'm going to take that background layer and fill it in with a dark color. Here I picked dark purple, you could pick dark blue, whatever you want. I could make it blue if I wanted. Okay, so I'm zooming that in. I'm going to type this text in for no good reason, just to let you know it's an abstract tutorial. So the key to an abstract signature, in my opinion, is having flow and depth still. Depth will come with the layers you use. Like if you take a look here, lots of layers went into it. Actually, let me uncheck everything for you so you can get a sense of what this was before it became the end result you saw. So I started with a plain background, I added a gradient, and then I built up these effects here. The text was added in later, but I built up these effects one by one, little by little. Each layer has its own tiny little bit, and all of that adds up in the end, right? It adds up to this tag that you see here. And all this depth was achieved by having all these different layers you see with tiny effects, barely noticeable in the long run, but look, they make a difference. I'm not going to build that same tag, and I can't really do a tutorial on it because it would literally be like, and now you smudge this, and now you smudge, and you smudge, and then you smudge. So let me give you my smudge settings before we go any farther. Smudge tool is right here. Click it, hold, and press the smudge tool. I'm gonna make a new layer here so I can show you what I do. And here are the smudge settings for this tutorial. Very round, soft, fluffy, smudgy brushing. So brush tip shape, the size changes. Right now it's 13. For some of the bigger effects, I had a bigger brush. Let's see. Spacing was set to 25%, and then under shape dynamics, there's 36% size jitter, 40% angle, 54% roundness, and 25% minimum roundness. All this can be changed. Sometimes I'll make a higher size jitter, but here I didn't want really small pieces. I wanted it mostly big fluffy effects. I didn't really look for like a sharp smudge. So I had everything kind of set to towards the 50% mark. So there's that. And let me show you the first way I smudge is with the brush tool. And I'll show you what I mean. Sorry, when it's like zoomed in, the text looks weird. The first type of smudge I do when I start a tutorial and when I started a signature, and that's like the basic of my signature, the foundation, is I will set up a flow layer, right? Just to remind myself of what flow I'm looking for. That layer will be something like, on its own layer, right here, layer 1, I'll take my brush tool, I'll take a light color that's visible, right click it, lower the size to get like a small brush there. And I will draw gestures that, coming off of Monique's tutorial that really reminded me like I do something very similar with these tags. I'll take that and I'll kind of draw in my flow, right? So for example, in this tag, I want like this focal to be here, and then I want the flow kind of to go down from there, like that. And then I want flow to travel up, like that. So that's my flow. This is why I'm not an artist, guys, by the way. This is why I stick to Photoshop. This is my drawing of flow. I'm going to label it flow. Yeah. And then, it's ridiculous. So, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to repeat that layer by pressing Control J. That copied it. And then I'm going to use my smudge tool with the settings I told you, right? And I'm going to go ahead and start smudging. Let me make it a little bit bigger, the brush, like that, see? Look at that, it's smudging. And if you look, it's like very fuzzy smudging, right? That's because the strength is lowered. If it was 100% strength, you would get a much sharper smudge effect like that. If you look, it's a little, it adds a little more sharpness. It's not quite as fuzzy. So for like the focal area, I'm gonna use it at a higher strength. And when I smudge, I kind of go in little like C motions, I guess, like C's or S's or curves, like circular curves, because that lets me get the color from inside and drag it out, and then it'll let me get the color from outside and drag it in. So there's two ways of smudging, right? Two ways of displacing it. So that I do. I smudged. Yay. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to lower the strength a bit, and then I'm going to go in and make parts of it a little softer, like that. Like that. And there we go. So this is our foundational. This is where we have our shades, right? I'm just going to blur everything, smudge it, get some interesting varying background colors in there so that it's an interesting background to my piece. So if you look, I can check the flow off again and see it's like kind of following that there. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll have that on a lower opacity, so I just know I'm staying on track. But so continue doing that. That was the first way with the brush tool. The second thing I like to do is use the distort and liquefy tools. Very similar. I'm going to open a new layer right here by pressing that, and I'm going to draw a little bit of a line. Actually, I'm going to draw that line in a different color to incorporate some color into this. So I'll pick up purple, and I'll draw lines like this, like these, and then I'm going to press filter, distort, displace. Default is 10 by 10. I'll pick a PSD. It has to be a PSD file, and I'll do that, and then I'll get this interesting effect here that I really like, right? Oops, I don't know what just happened. There we go. And like this part here, I kind of like that a lot as it is, and I'll just leave it for now. But this part here, it wasn't really that smudged. So I'll go ahead and I'll smudge it up a bit more. I like using the displacement parts as more like overall coloring more than anything else. So I'll set this to, not color burn, I'll set this to color dodge, or I don't know, mess around with the layer settings like this maybe. And then set that to like 40%, and then smudge. Smudge, 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 smudge. Why aren't you smudging? Oh, you are. Okay, it's just taking a while. I made it really small, the brush. Let me make it a little bigger. There. Smudge. Yay, smudge. So there we go. You start building it. You have like 20 layers of this, little by little, and you'll get a full tag. This was many, many layers, and it's actually like really bright when I look at it. It's kind of eye-searing. Sorry, guys. But like, look, this was each little part of it, like here, that part, that was all its own little layer. Little layers, little by little, was how I built this tag. So I'm like that. I like using more layers than less. So each little part will be on its own layer. That way I can move that layer around, and I can decide, oh, I actually like the lighting more like this, not down there. And I can move stuff around very easily. And you do that to build it up. The main important thing was the smudge settings that you guys took from me. So let me just show those off again. before this tag, before our time runs out. So shape dynamics, brush tip shape, that changes. You change that around. But spacing was 25%. Shape dynamics, you can pause and copy those settings. And scattering, you can pause and copy those settings. I had smoothing checked off, but nothing else. And that's how I got the really cloudy circular smudge. You can change the brushes around. I might release a different tutorial showing you different smudge brushes and how they work. But this is the one I used for this tag. It gives you very fluffy, cloudy smudging, which is what I use to just build up depth. Other things I would have done to this tag was add a lot more layers, blur some parts, sharpen some parts, use go to filter, go to other, use a high pass filter, this thing. Let me show you what that does really quickly. If you open a new layer, go to image, apply image, okay, then you go to filter, other, high pass. It does this really weird looking thing, but then you set this to soft light and look what you do. It really crisps everything up. So if you look here, let me show you. This is the before, this is the after. You see that? It's like a very crisped up image, and that's really helpful for some parts where you really want the detail to show. So what I would do is I would then add a clipping mask using this button there. Select clipping mask, select the brush tool, change it to black, make it a big fluffy brush, and that will erase the effect. Black erases, and if you switch over to white, white adds the effect back on, right? So I would use the black and I would get rid of that effect in some places where I wanted it to be, blurry. And then I would go back in with the white. Oops, I would go back, what am I doing? Cancel. I would go back in with the white, still in the clipping mask, and just make sure my details here were still safe and not gone. So, play around with it. Smudge around. Smudge. Build it up. What you can do is duplicate that smudge layer and look at that. It got a lot more drastic and bold and cool. Actually, I kind of like it like that, so I will leave it duplicated. So, it's guess and check, it's trial and error. You have fun with it. And that's all I can really say to you. I will release this PSD pack once I can label it properly for you guys. But this is basically what I did to build it. Enjoy. I will take screenshots of the smudge settings and put those on Zombians with the video tutorial for you. I'm out. Done. Thank you for listening to me talk for so long. Bye.